Chapter 6. Wat Buddhabhavana, 1990 to 1995. Las Vegas was still a relatively small city of about 275,000 people when Sayadaw arrived in late 1990. It was a far cry from the 680,000 people who would call it home by 2021, with Clark County having a total population of nearly 2.8 million people. I didn't really have any expectations or impressions of Las Vegas. Ajahn Narung showed me around the city. He took me downtown and pointed out the casinos. It was the first and only time I've ever gone to those places. Wat Buddhabhavana's intended new campus on Gowan Road in neighboring North Las Vegas was not yet under construction. While preparations were underway, Nevada's first Buddhist monastery had been established in a narrow house that the Thai community rented for $700 a month near the intersection of Desert Inn and Sandhill. Sayadaw settled in quickly, and within a month's time Ajahn Panyavaro approached him about teaching meditation to the lay community. Luang Ta, which is a Thai honorific meaning venerable grandfather, usually reserved for elderly monks who ordained later in life, asked me to start teaching. Because of the limited room on the narrow property, I started teaching at a different community member's house each week. I had around 15 students, and we shuffled around between about 5 different houses. I'd usually start teaching after lunch, about 1 p.m. Then we'd practice sitting meditation and chanting. I taught them Vipassana meditation. One of Sayadaw's earliest students in the United States was a Thai woman he met shortly after he arrived at Wat Buddhabhavana. She would eventually ask him for ordination as an 8-precept nun. She'd come to be called Nun, or Mayachi, Medhavi. 98 Wat Buddhabhavana, 1990 to 1995. Luang Ta Panyavaro passed away in 1992 before construction of the Gowan Road Monastery campus had been completed. Although there were 7 other monks living at the temporary monastery residence near Desert Inn and Sandhill, including an older, more senior monk, as well as Sayadaw's friend Ajahn Narung, who'd played such a critical role in him being invited to the United States, the Thai laity instead asked Sayadaw to stay on as the new abbot. He told them, "I'll continue to teach, but I don't want to be the abbot." When they persisted, Sayadaw explained to them that what he really wanted to do was embark upon an extended, intensive forest retreat, a dream he'd harbored for years, and a particular yearning for which he'd started to feel when he'd been in Sri Lanka. Sayadaw hadn't enjoyed a sustained silent meditation retreat since the summer of 1975. It had been 17 years. My original intention when I came to the United States was to help out at Wat Buddhabhavana for 5 years, then return to either Thailand or Burma and go on a retreat in the forest. I'd already found a good location when I'd traveled around northern Thailand with Ajahn Naikorn a couple of years earlier, but the community kept on, urging Sayadaw to put his name in for consideration amongst some of the other monks who were interested in the position. Sayadaw considered all of the meals and other requisites that the community had provided for him since he'd been there, and so in time he agreed to accommodate their request. He put his name in for consideration. A month later, Sayadaw was told that every single member of the lay community had voted for him to be the new abbot. He accepted the position with humility. It was his first time being an abbot, but he made it clear that he would only do it until they could find a replacement. He urged them to start looking right away. A controversial new abbot, a new Burmese abbot of the first Thai temple in Nevada, was not without controversy. There was even a headline in a Thai newspaper, 99 Las Vegas Sayadaw Burmese monk, new abbot of Las Vegas Temple. Sayadaw could sense the uneasiness some felt about the situation. Then someone filed a complaint with the Sangharaja of Thailand, alleging that Sayadaw had coerced his way into the abbot role at Wat Buddhabhavana. The Sangharaja sent his secretary to Nevada to investigate the matter. During his 2-week stay at the temple while the complaint was investigated, the secretary learned that the lay community not only loved Sayadaw, but that they had actually begged him to be the new abbot. The secretary also took notice that Sayadaw was a very good meditation teacher, Upon completion of the investigation, the Sangharaja found the complaint to be unfounded. Through it all, from beginning to end, and beyond, Sayadaw remained humble and didn't say much. Soon, construction of the Gowan Road Monastery campus in North Las Vegas was complete. Sayadaw and the rest of the resident monks moved in. Once established at the new campus, Sayadaw, the very first abbot of Wat Buddhabhavana's Gowan Road Monastery complex, carried on teaching meditation. He also introduced a new topic of study for the Las Vegas Thai community, Abhidhamma. But at each monthly board meeting, Sayadaw would ask about the community's efforts to find another abbot, yet they always responded that they hadn't found a replacement yet. He longed to depart for his intensive forest retreat, yet time continued to wear on. Sayadaw would later reflect on some of the early adjustments he'd made to life in a Thai temple in the United States, and how it had shifted when he became the abbot. When I first came to Wat Buddhabhavana, they did chanting for 1 hour in the morning, then sat in meditation for just 20 minutes. They did the same thing in the evening, but for just 1 hour in total. We meditated only 2 times a day. 100 Wat Buddhabhavana, 1990 to 1995. That's their tradition, to focus primarily on chanting practice. So I couldn't really change it even after I became the abbot. I just followed their tradition. But when I became the abbot, I did adjust the schedule a little bit. Now, we'd wake at 4 a.m., then chant and meditate until 6 a.m. And we'd chanting and meditate again in the evening from 5 to 6 p.m. It was still only twice a day, but I had to start meditating for longer in the morning. Sometimes in the evening I had to go to school and wouldn't have a chance to do the evening chanting or sitting meditation. But I'd do it whenever I didn't have class. Sayadaw had begun taking college classes, anywhere from 9 to 15 credits per semester, at Community College of Southern Nevada, CCSN, now College of Southern Nevada, or CSN, on Charleston Boulevard in Las Vegas. During the 5 years he'd eventually be at Wat Buddhabhavana, Sayadaw's schedule kept him too busy to keep in touch with any of his supporters or many of his contacts back in Myanmar, or even in Thailand or Sri Lanka. He was focused completely on his responsibilities and his new community in America. He slept only 3 or 4 hours a day, using the remaining hours to attend to monastery duties, study, or do homework. He'd later reflect on his busy schedule during his years at Wat Buddhabhavana. I would offer lectures 3 days a week. 1 day was dedicated to Abhidhamma, another was dedicated to a general Dhamma topic, and a Dhamma talk was given on each observance day. After lunch every day during those years, I'd give another Dhamma talk to the community. Then, I'd hurry off to school. I'd end up doing my homework in the school library. Eventually, I'd get to bed about midnight. 1:01, Las Vegas, Sayadaw. In the meantime, I used to record all my Dhamma classes on cassette tapes, so I'd have to label and catalog them too. I was the abbot, so I had to do all of this myself, but I was happy to do it. During his time at CCSN, one of the topics that Sayadaw studied was the Spanish language. The school required a language, typically German, French, Japanese, or Spanish, and he chose to take 2 years of Spanish. He studied from a book, which he later still remembered being called Como se dice, or How do you say, and passed the exams for Spanish 101 and 102. Although he successfully learned to speak Spanish during those 2 years, some 25 years later, he reflected that his lack of follow-up practice had impacted his skills in the language, as it had with the Sinhalese he'd learned in Sri Lanka. Still, he retained the ability to at least understand the 2 languages when spoken. As well as the Chinese he'd learned growing up in Kunhat, Sayadaw's fluency in a wide variety of languages is impressive. Over many decades, he's been a competent communicator in Palahung, his native tongue, Thai Yai, the primary language of the Shan people, Burmese, Thai, English, and Laotian, even though his only visit to Laos was ultimately blocked by visa issues. Add to those the Chinese, Sinhalese, and Spanish that have since fallen into disuse, and that's 9 languages in which Sayadaw could at one time or another communicate. In 1993, Sayadaw ordained a new monk for the first time. The new monk, a Thai man they called Fra Jimmy, had been one of Sayadaw's new Abhidhamma students. Fra Jimmy remained as a monk at Wat Buddhabhavana for 6 years, even after Sayadaw eventually left. In time, though, Fra Jimmy disrobed, moved away, and started a family. Created by Kama Sayadaw once talked with a student about the first human being of this world cycle, the full matter of which, and more, is described in detail in Aganya Sutta, 102 Wat Buddhabhavana, 1990–1995. This was a discourse given by the Buddha describing the process by which the universe and human society evolve at the beginning of each new kappa. Whether interpreted literally or as a parable, this important teaching was clearly intended by the Buddha to refute the attitudes of those high in the Indian caste system of his time. The first human being was spontaneous. Where did he come from? Not from creation. A Brahma came first. After its lifespan expired, it was spontaneously reborn in the human world. Brahma don't have a gender, they have no body sensitivity, and because they have no tongue sensitivity, they don't eat. They dwell in jhana, happiness and rapture. They don't have to eat. But as more Brahma came to be reborn in the human world, they ate and enjoyed the flavor of the food, and motivated by greed, ate too much. As they did, they slowly began to evolve dense bodies. Then, they needed to go to the bathroom. Those who'd been men in previous human lives, during another kappa, formed male organs, and those who'd been women in previous human lives formed female organs. And then, in line with nature, they began to have sexual intercourse. Lobha, dosa, and moha had arisen. What about the first Brahma? After it was reborn in the Brahma world, another was reborn in that realm. When the second Brahma saw the first Brahma, the second thought the first must have been the creator, as there was no one else around. The first Brahma, in turn, wanted other Brahma to come. And when they in fact came to be reborn in the Brahma world, the first Brahma assumed itself their creator, as his wish had apparently come true. 103 Las Vegas Sayadaw. In time, all the inhabitants of the Brahma world came to believe the initial Brahma to be their creator. Sayadaw explained that they were all mistaken. They'd mistaken the kamic process for a creative process. I don't like to compare religions, but people should know this. Some people think a creator creates the world and its people. But in Buddhism, the world is just nature. It's just a kamic process. Who creates the creator? If someone's narrow-minded and just believes what they've always believed, it's hard to convince them otherwise. But Buddhists don't believe in a creator. Kama is our creator. And that's how we become humans. Angels, Brahma, animals, hell beings, hungry ghosts, and demons. Kama is our creator. We need to have an open heart and an open mind. Then it's easy to accept it. It just makes sense. Going on retreat after almost 5 years at Wat Buddhabhavana, in early 1995, Sayadaw informed the community that he would soon be leaving his duties and undertaking a 1-year intensive forest retreat, the very retreat he'd told them some 3 years earlier that he'd wanted to do. The laity, some of them crying, begged him to stay on and continue serving as their abbot, but he was firm in his resolve. By now he was well established in Nevada. Rather than travel back to Thailand or Myanmar for his retreat, he'd learned of opportunities for an intensive retreat right there in the United States. He'd recently visited a nearby Burmese forest monastery, Tangpulu Kaba Ai Monastery, outside of Santa Cruz, California, and asked the abbot for accommodations. The abbot had agreed to put him up in a tent on the forested monastery grounds. 104 Wat Buddhabhavana, 1990–1995. Tangpulu Kaba Ai Monastery was an ideal place for an extended solitary retreat. Situated on perhaps 10 acres of redwood forest in the Santa Cruz Mountains close to Boulder Creek, California, the monastery, the first Burmese monastery in the United States, was founded in 1982 by the great 85-year-old Burmese meditation master Tangpulu Tauya Kaba Ai Sayadaw 4 years before his death. Like Mahasi Sayadaw, Tangpulu Tauya Kaba Aye Sayadaw was a disciple of Mingun Jetawun Sayadaw. The ascetic monk was known for keeping many of the Dhutanga practices, including not lying down, a practice he kept for 70 years. The master was believed by many to have been an arahant. Boulder Creek Shui Thing Da World Peace Pagoda, the first Burmese-style pagoda built in the United States, at Tangpulu Kaba Aye Monastery in Boulder Creek, California. When Sayadaw didn't budge in his resolve to go on an intensive solitary retreat, the community countered by offering to rent a local Las Vegas house for him to use so that he could do his retreat in seclusion and without the distractions that can come from living in a monastery. 105 Las Vegas Sayadaw. He wouldn't have to go to California, they said. He could do his year-long retreat right there. And so he agreed. The community soon found a 2-story, 4-bedroom home to rent for $1,500 a month, plus about $500 a month for utilities, and offered it to Sayadaw as his retreat residence. On Vesak Day, the full moon day of May of 1995, one of Sayadaw's lay Abhidhamma students, a Thai artist they'd call Fra Arom, took temporary ordination at Wat Buddhabhavana in order to stay at the rented hermitage and accept the community's daily food offerings, a suitable portion of which the new monk would then leave outside Sayadaw's bedroom door. On July 13, 1995, Sayadaw stepped down from his role as abbot of Wat Buddhabhavana, and the two monks left the temple to begin the year-long retreat. Conditioned by our karma, while speaking with a young student about how our past karma created our current conditions in this life, Sayadaw spoke of a blind and mute Thai woman who had visited him at his temple 20 years earlier. Although she had been born with these disabilities, the woman eventually earned a master's degree and became very wealthy. As she gained wealth, she used her financial resources to support an organization for the deaf. Eventually, the organization invited her to New York to receive an award for her good work. Sayadaw explained to his student that, despite her disabilities, the woman had enough good karma to be educated, to be wealthy, to be generous, and that if she practiced meditation, she could gain enlightenment too. This good karma would also benefit her in future lives. Sayadaw then went on to elaborate that a being's rebirth consciousness will determine in which plane rebirth will take place. The student had a good question. For someone born without wisdom, he asked, what should they do to be reborn with wisdom in the next life? Just practice meditation. 106 Wat Buddhabhavana, 1990 to 1995. Study and practice. Study and practice. Accumulate knowledge. Then, the knowledge will follow them. Sayadaw then shared a story of a young girl in Rangoon who'd seemed to know everything. When her parents took her to school, the principal quizzed her and found that there was nothing he could teach her. She never went to school again. When the girl grew up, she became a nun and was soon teaching Dhamma. In her previous life, she was the abbot of a monastery. Studying will follow us to the next life. The student then asked Sayadaw to explain how someone could be born with autism, but still be very smart. For some, their rebirth consciousness is very good, but their bad karma takes it back. Like with the Thai lady I spoke of, she had a master's degree and was very smart, yet she was blind and mute. This was because of her bad karma in a previous life. 107.